Hello YouTubers, it's the Affliction back with you this evening. With the Daytona 500 race that was sadly rained out, had a little bit of time on my hands and I wanted to do another gun review for you guys out there, gals. Pass on a little consumer information. What I got for you guys this evening is this is a Ruger 1022, and I kind of tacked it out a little bit. Got a Caldwell shooter bipod on it, and it's a pretty straight shooter. Originally this was a stock 1022 that I purchased at Walmart. I think the blue, they're like $217. I think you could get them in stainless. They come with a wooden stock. And I went out, I shot it, had some fun with it. I wanted to kind of tactical it out a little bit, make it a little more of a sniper type rifle. And I did a few modifications to it. One of the things that I did when I purchased it, it had a very horrendous trigger to it. Very bad length of pull. And I went online, if you go on YouTube or search the internet, you could find a lot of web pages and information how to stone down the trigger on this thing, the hammer and the disconnector, and you could stone that down. I used some emery cloth and trial and error. I just kept putting it back in and out till I got it to where I, wanted it to be. And now it's a little more than a hair trigger, a little bit, but it really helps to try to keep those groups on target down range. So I did that to it. And I also added this scope mount. One of the things that I didn't like too much was when it came equipped, when Ruger sent it, the factory rail to me, comes with the weapon. If you're trying to use standard Weaver type mounts and stuff like that, I found that these indentations were kind of narrow and not as deep as you would find on typically ARs and standard Weaver type base mounts. And I actually put a Weaver scope mount on this, and because it wasn't wide enough and it wasn't deep enough, it actually kind of canted it. So every time I went out to the range, try to zero it in or shoot it, it was never set the same way each time I put it on. It never locked in the same way. So I was pretty disappointed with this, and I hope that Ruger could, eventually come out with, a stock Weaver base that comes with the 1022 instead of giving you this. And, as far as this little tiny rail on top, I mean, they have some scope bases, for 22 that use this intermediate, this tiny rail, but it never really locks up good for long-term shooting. So I basically got rid of this. I just went with a standard, I think, under the gun, or there's several of these bases out there. This is thicker, basically goes on with a nice Allen key. I put a little bit of Loctite on it, and now when I put this Weaver scope base mount, I could take it off, put it back in the same position that I started with, and it runs good. Locks down tight, don't have to worry about it wobbling or not coming off and such. The other thing I did, you could see, I got a bull barrel. This is a 16-inch bull barrel from Tactical Innovations, and I believe they were out in South Dakota, I believe. and they make a great product. I think for like 99, around 99, 100 bucks, I picked up this bull barrel, blue, and it even comes threaded, 1/2 28. If you wanted to put a silencer or some type of flash suppressor, you could do so. I like to shoot it without one, so I just lift the thread protector. It comes standard with that, and I noticed that when I was shooting it, the thread protector would come loose now and then. I have to tighten it up, so I just put a little, Loctite on that, and now I shoot it all the time. And I've probably put a couple thousand rounds through this thing, and it stays pretty true. It's pretty thick. I mean, you could look at it. It's got a nice bevel to it, and I think it made the gun a lot more accurate than it was. Basically, I did the camo job myself to it. The stock is a Boyd's tactical stock they make. I like Boyd's. I got a Boyd stock on my Mark II Savage, which is a bolt action 22. I'll probably bring that out one evening, show it to you guys. But this was a tactical stock. It came unfinished. And the good thing about Boyd, sometimes if you go to his website, they have bargain basement things where they'll have like an unfinished stock that may just have like a little nick in it that when you get it, you can't even really see it, that they call as a second, and you can get it for like half price. But virtually most of his stocks are like very affordable Boyd stocks at like $100, $99. So I mean, when you're talking about a custom made stock that's beautiful wood inlays, and I mean just nice overall finish to it for $100, and then you get it as a second for $59. I mean, how do you beat that, for 59 bucks or $100? And one good thing I like about it, this one actually he puts 2 sling swivels, so you could put one on a bipod, and then if you wanted to mount your sling to this, you have a second one, and then it comes stock with one in the back. So, I mean, that's a good point that I liked about this. I also like the Monte Carlo type high cheek rise, that when you're using your scope, you come back with the same cheek rest, and it's heightened a little bit on like a Monte Carlo, so you come back with the same, reposition your cheek with the cheek rest the same time for consistency. It also has a nice grip to it. Fits the palm swell of your hand really good, and you're able to pull back on the squeeze on that trigger, and it really cut above the the stock that came with this weapon. And of course I put the bipod on because I like to shoot with a bipod when I go to the range. This is just a standard Bushnell scope. I got some Uncle Mike flip ups on the objective and subjective lenses, and basically got your adjustments underneath here to zero it in and such. I think this is a 50 objective lens, I believe, and it really lights up. It's got a fine crosshair, and I think it goes up to what is this? 75, 100. I think it goes up to like 18 power, and at 100 yards, I mean, you could really nail if you want to hit a drumstick. I was popping off some drumsticks at 100 yards and able to hit it several times, and I couldn't see it, with a naked eye, but this scope really lit it up for me. That's one of the things I like to go to the range. I go to most ranges, some of them, they have a range officer, and you're typically with a lot of people, and you're probably familiar with a hot and cold range. So when you have multiple people shooting at the same time, it's hard to get initial feedback where your bullet is hitting on that target. So when you use a scope, in between each shot, you can make the correct windage and elevation changes to it, and you could get yourself on target and have fun, which I enjoy to do. I mean, I try to go out there before, if you just have fixed sights, and unless you have a spotting scope, you're kind of playing hit or miss on where you're actually hitting, and until the range officers, hey, cool range, go down and check your target, you really don't know where you're hitting a lot of times, except unless you have a spotter scope, which I like putting, this is like a spotter scope in one, if you will, so that as needed I could correct, and then by actually seeing the rounds hit the target, I get, you know, immediate feedback. And you know, I have fun with that. And other than that, it's pretty stock. The new, I bought this like a year or two ago, so it has a nice, heavy, longer magazine release. You know, some of the old ones I know, they had it was kind of a button in there, but this one, you just hit it, pops right out. So there's really no, you know, issues going in and out. And, you know, this is a 10 round mag. These you could buy, I think, 10, 12 bucks online. I think, you know, they sell them at Walmart, readily easy to get. It comes, I also seen, you know, if you want to go for the 20 or 30 round mags or 25 rounds. I like these because, like I say, I shoot off a bench. If you were shooting probably more of an action-based system at steel or something, and you were running and gunning, you know, then you could probably go with a 25 magazine, if you will. But since I shoot off bench and just kind of take my time, the 10s are good for me. And I really like this gun a lot. I recommend anybody, if you're just starting shooting or you've been shooting, you haven't got a Ruger 1022, it's probably one of the best 22s on the market. You know, it's never failed on me, never jammed on me, easy to maintain. A lot of options for stocks. You could get pistol grip stocks. You could even get these, they look like AR-15s. They sell whole, you know, stock items that'll make it look like an AR-15. I even seen some of them look like SIG, you know, 5.56s, and basically you can do anything you want with these guns. Very reliable, loads of barrels, parts. You could buy a whole, you know, you could spend hundreds of dollars on triggers and such, but like I said, if you do it yourself, you could get the trigger, you know, right where you need it to be without spending, you know, $50 to $100 on a new trigger system. You know, it's all just what you're comfortable doing with it. But definitely, you know, I would 86 this. If you get one of these, definitely 86 that, and get, you know, an aftermarket or a Weaver base, because this, I had nothing but problems with this. You know, and hopefully Ruger will change that, and, you know, down the road. But no, I like the gun a lot. Like I said, I put probably 4,000 or 5,000 rounds every time I go to the range. I shoot one of those 550 bulk Remington Gold Bullet boxes, and I have a great time with it. I shoot 4 or 5 hours, and I love it. Never jammed. You know, I keep it clean. I like the stock. Camouflaging. I pretty much did all this myself with Krylon paint. The stuff works good. Just dry everything really good before you do it. You know, I got Krylon green. I think I got some tan, and you know, there's a lot of tutorials on how to camouflage, but just kind of do your own thing with it. Start lightest color first. Typically do it all tan, the whole thing, and then come back after that's dry with your light greens, blacks, browns. And I just take a lot of, you know, scrubbery or brush that's native to your area, palm fronds, pine needles, you know, and then just hold it on there, spray it, and, you know, do it again. If you're not happy with that pattern, hit it again. That's all I did until I got a pattern that I was happy with. And, you know, sometimes, you know, if you hit it sometime, you'll get a little chip maybe here and there from the paint, but if, you know, cheap, just keep it, can't hit it again. But I've had this on about 2 years now and haven't had any problem with it. On the stock itself, once it was camoed up, I actually put a clear coat. You buy Krylon, they got a clear satin finish, and you know, I hit that a couple times, and it put a nice little finish to it. But I mean, I like it a lot, you know. I enjoy it, and I hope you guys enjoy it, and I will see you next time. Thank you.